In a studio that's in a basement comes the epic story of how two friends changed the future of the movie podcast game forever. The reviews are in. Boys Life magazine gives the High Sci podcast 4.5 acorns. The Daily Bugle says, these guys are super legit. And Pope Francis declares the podcast as life-affirming. From the kid who tried to get smart with David Spade and got fucking old.
You're still out. You're still bad.
And the guy who can name all four Baldwin brothers.
Alec, William, Daniel, and the baby boy, Stephen.
Live from the studio of his parents' basement. The Have You Seen It podcast.
Welcome back to the Have You Seen It podcast. My name is Mason Knight. Sitting across from me is the one, the only Cash Kraus. How you doing, Cash?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Good as always, man. We're here today. It's another Blockbuster Monday.
Blockbuster Monday, absolutely. It's a hot day, hot one for us.
It's gonna be a hot weekend.
A brutal weekend. had to drive down to Beaverton today.
Oh,
take my dad. He's picking up a Harley.
Ooh,
Yep,
nice.
yes.
Atta guy.
Oh yeah, yep.
Was he pumped? Was he stoked?
Oh yeah. It was some weird the guy who's selling it was 72 years old. Yeah, he was selling it, and
Damn, he was still a rider at 72, huh?
well, obviously not. He was selling it.
Well, I guess so.
So he's hanging out the Spurs.
He could have retired at 72.
But yeah, we had to pick up in Beaverton, but the guy's bank was like in Tillamook. So I had to drop my dad off. He drove the motorcycle to Tillamook, and then he's got to drive Tillamook back. So
he's like, look, I do everything in Tillamook. They've got the greatest cheese of all time.
Yeah.
It's
real convenient when your bank is 3 hours away from when your home is.
Right.
I got to go get some money out. I'll be back in 5 hours.
Oh, gosh.
But yeah, so that's what I had to do today.
That sounds
but
like
my daddy's still on the way back.
Nice.
Still driving in the heat. But yeah, it's Harley. The Krauses are. I mean, we're Harley drivers.
Right.
Always have been. You know how it is.
Never rode a motorcycle before. I've been on it one time, like
I've
a
never
dirt bike or
I've never
whatever,
rode a Harley or
yeah,
anything before.
never.
No. God, no. And I probably won't be until I'm 50-something.
Right. When at that point you're
Then-
like, if I get hit by a car, it's like whatever.
Yeah, at this point, I mean,
But right
it's
now,
extra
I'm too
time.
young.
It's
Yeah.
borrowed time at that point.
It's-
But all right. Speaking of American motorcycles, I don't know. I was trying to segue into that, but
It wasn't
a
a bad segue, in all honesty. There were a lot worse
Yes.
choices you could have made.
Absolutely. And we are doing an American Pickle for our new Blockbuster
Yes.
Monday.
The HBO Max film that came out August 6th.
Actually, yeah, August 6th. Yeah, but this is actually kind of a new release.
Yeah, it is. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Didn't come to theaters, but it's new for us.
Mhm.
Starring Seth Rogen and starring Seth Rogen.
Whoa.
Dual role.
Yeah, he is. Dual rule.
Yeah, it follows Seth Rogen as a Jewish immigrant who gets preserved in a vat of pickles and wakes up in a modern-day New York City, attempting to fit with the assistance of his last remaining descendant, played by Seth Rogen. You know that old story, guy falls in the pickle vat.
He's pickled for 100 years.
Comes
he wakes
out,
up. He's like,
shenanigans.
What the fuck is going on?
Ensue, of course. Yeah, you know, it's been told 1,000 times.
Yeah, the classic fish out of the water story.
Yeah, it is directed by Brandon Truss, and this is interesting enough. Yeah, this is the first movie actually that he's directed on his own, but he's directed a ton of things with Seth Rogen. This is The Inn, Neighbors, The Interview, That's
Neighbors
My
2?
Boy, Neighbors 2, Sorority, and this is an American Pickle.
Mhm.
But first Seth Rogen movie produced to not be rated R.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
He was able to keep a lid on it and go PG-13.
And I
Good
was
for him.
scared when I saw that.
Yeah,
When I first saw that PG-13, I had no idea, and it kind of surprised me. But it wasn't. I don't think it took from the film.
No, I did, for what it was, no. It didn't take away from
Yeah.
the film at all.
This
I mean,
isn't-
there were.
Well, they didn't ever say drop the F word or anything.
No.
They weren't. He's not smoking weed in this.
No,
which
he's
is one of the
not.
few films you will see that where he's
I gotta
not
say, a little
smoking.
disappointed. I thought
Yeah.
Herschel, the old Herschel, was going to try weed for the
Exactly.
first time.
Yeah, but they're
you know?
going to toke up.
That would have been really funny.
Yeah, he was just the one New York hipster to not smoke weed. Just be straight
Right.
edge, surprisingly. But yeah, plays Seth Rogen. Oh, I was gonna say it's an HBO Max original, not even on HBO. I couldn't. I had to download HBO Max for it.
Okay, so HBO Max and HBO. If you have a subscription to HBO, you have a subscription to HBO Max,
automatically,
right?
Yep.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, you
But
do.
they kicked me off. When HBO Max came around, they kicked me off the Hulu, so I had to resubscribe to it through Hulu,
Oh yeah,
which
you
was
could.
a little annoying. But I mean, I got it done. But I was so confused. I'm like, hold on, are these two separate apps, and I got to pay $15 a month for both of them?
Or are you talking about HBO Go?
Yes.
Yeah, as soon as HBO Max kicked in, HBO Go was no more.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but you still have the same subscription or whatever.
Yeah.
But
now I
HBO
get it.
Max, it's a decent subscription. It's decent platform. It runs really well compared to
No search
Amazon
bar
Prime.
though.
Is there no search?
Well, I couldn't find the search bar on it when I was working it through the Amazon Fire Stick, and it was frustrating. Through the computer,
I think on Xbox, yeah, it's just Y.
Yeah.
So, but through Fire Stick, yeah. But yeah, that's the only way you're gonna be able to see it is through. Not even if. Well, I guess if you have HBO, but it's not on HBO because I went on Comcast to look for it and it's not there. You have to have an HBO Max.
Yeah, you do.
subscription. So that's one more subscription I have to have.
It's insane.
But what did you think about this American Pickle?
Well, not to start off on a negative foot, it's not, and we'll talk about this more in length, but it's not my favorite Seth Rogen film. I'll be honest. But I thought the political ties to this and the satire involved, I thought was really funny. I thought there were a lot of really good comedic moments, but it was a different kind of comedy than I think I'm used to for Seth Rogen.
To me, it almost felt like it was an hour and a half long SNL skit.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of, yeah, it was, I mean, it's based off a short story, but that is kind of what it felt like it was based off a short that was expanded to be an hour and a half long.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. I liked it the longer it went on,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's not the most drop down funny. It is cute and it has like a wholesome overtone to it.
Yeah, it does.
But it's not. I saw some people were saying it's one of the best Seth Rogen's ever made.
Really?
But I think standards for film are going down more that no film is coming out.
Right. It gets real hard to critique
Yeah.
when we're like, oh, wow, we're really blessed to even have
Exactly.
films come out.
So when there was a film that just came out that got really higher praise than it should have, but that's happening I think a lot now because people
Yes.
are just happy. So I saw some articles saying this is the best Seth Rogen's done in a long time, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't. I
was-
mean,
it was
again,
good,
it wasn't horrible,
and
and
I-
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like the best Seth Rogen film I've seen.
There were some funny elements, and Seth Rogen does a good job of playing the dual roles
He
for
does,
sure.
yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't enough to really. I was happy, and then by the time it ended, I had a smile on my face because it's a happy film. But again, I thought it was going to be much funnier, I guess, because of the premise.
Yeah.
The premise is so slapstick and crazy, but then the film ends up being like kind of much more grounded in a way.
It does, and there's a lot of.
But there is some funny, wild scene. I mean, that's just like crazy Seth Rogen-esque.
I want to say political undertones to this film.
Oh,
Because, like,
absolutely.
the American dream, starting your own business, defeating the Russians
Well-
when they have the vodka billboard up, I thought was
Well,
funny.
and him being like a staunch anti-women's activist, and that getting like a ton of like far right followers,
right,
like
yes,
exactly
at the debates.
that part. I thought was the debate part. I thought was gonna be really stupid, but it ended up being hilarious when he was talking about how women are insignificant because
Yes.
they have tiny hands,
Tiny
and
hands,
then people
and then
in the
the girls are
crowd,
like,
and they kept
"Oh,
going to
we
people in
do."
the crowd, and they were like, yeah, they're like agreeing with it. They thought it was
Right.
so funny. Or they thought it was so true, but yeah, I like that. I thought that was really a funny scene when, and then he tricks him into saying that Jesus didn't really exist, and all of the evangelicals, of course,
Chasing him
immediately
down the
chase him
street.
out of town. I think.
And that was a good editing too. I like that scene specifically because it was right after he said that you see the reaction of the crowd and they're like, and then they're all
Yeah.
chasing him down the road. I love it too because it looks so real. You can tell if you slow it down that it was CGI, but I couldn't tell when one of those objects are thrown and it hits him in the head. It was freaking hilarious.
It was funny though. It was so stupid. It was like, because remember when he finds the flyer, it's like New York professor versus, and it just says Pickler. Like, why would he even be there?
Right. And as a professor, why are you wasting your time
And it was
debating
so
a
funny when
pickler?
he was saying super offensive stuff, and she was like, "Oh, that's really
Well, that's
offensive,"
really
and the crowd is
offensive,
going
yeah.
crazy. But yeah, it definitely.
Like, women are meant to serve.
Yeah, and
They
then
serve
they're
with
all
their
like,
breast
yeah.
milk and their children.
They have small hands
hands.
used to serve. And then you see women in the crowd, they're looking at their hands,
looking
like, yeah, they're Greece. That was pretty funny.
It was funny.
I did enjoy that. But yeah, that was pretty good.
And too, with the social cues, I guess, in like modern day, where Herschel obviously has no idea. He lived in 1919, and like he's trying to Ben is trying to convince him to go on Twitter.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, trust me, it's just where you just let it go. You voice your opinion anyway. You can be as crazy as you want."
Yeah, and that again I felt was another like political satire.
Yes,
I felt like they were
exactly.
satiring Trump for a lot of that, especially with the talks and all that. But yeah,
Well, even with
for
the
sure.
debates and stuff too.
Exactly,
He's like,
yeah.
I want the biggest office. The biggest
Oh yeah,
office.
that was really on the nose.
Yeah, it was on the nose.
and they were just
A
like
lot of it
freaking
was.
out.
Right.
It's like the biggest office. It's gonna be huge,
Gonna
and
be
they were
huge.
going crazy.
Yes.
But yeah, for sure. Those were like, and I liked that the whole element was kind of at the end. It seemed like it was a real thing with like Seth Rogen actually dealing with like his battle with like Judaism and stuff like that. That's what it seemed like too, for sure.
Right.
Because Seth Rogen, he's Jewish, but he's an atheist in real life. So that's what I thought a lot of this movie was, especially with like the of his like parents and shit like that. It was kind of him battling himself in a way. I mean, literally, actually, but like his Jewish self and stuff like that. Because Herschel was obviously him in every way, but it was just old school, very religious and everything
Traditional
like that.
as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes.
And what Herschel thought he should have been. But yeah, I liked that element too. I wish even they went even deeper into that. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool because that's what a lot of it is mostly just Herschel wanting Ben to be more religious.
Right, and to be more like him.
Yeah, exactly. And at the end, he ends up getting sent, spoiler, back to Eastern Europe. I thought that part was really funny. In
was.
Eastern Europe, it's
And
like
they're like,
super
"Go," and he's
shitty.
like-
It's so shitty, yeah.
Looking around. No one speaks English either.
He's like, I want to take you somewhere. Sarah, love this pond. And they go to the pond, and behind it, it's just nuclear,
factories.
nuclear waste and nuclear factories. I thought that was pretty funny. But I liked also the element of them explaining how he was alive. I thought that was I thought the way they did it was just enough. I mean, obviously a film like this you don't need, but it was perfect for like the interviewee to be like the audience. She was like, how do you expect us to believe that this man was pickled for 100 years? And then it just goes like silent and you see the scientist just slowly explaining it and all the interviews are like, yeah, yes. Okay. But it's never shown to the audience. Like it's never actually revealed. I like the way they did that because at least they acknowledged it.
Right. Well, I think for a film like this, I mean, we don't need a scientific explanation on how this man survived 100 years being pickled. I mean, we get it. It's a comedy, Yeah. This isn't a science fiction.
No, and that's
film.
why I like that at least they shine a light on it.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, because that's exactly what everyone was thinking.
Of
like,
course,
how's this
yeah.
man been pickled for so long? But they breeze through it. But the strangest thing, I thought that you would think immediately there'd be like a GoFundMe or setup. They just let this guy go.
I know. And then, nothing, no, I mean, if you literally brought someone from
He's living
1919.
in the park.
Yeah, you'd have to put him through like an 8-week course and catching them up on all this new technology
And
whatnot.
it's like the biggest story ever, the news and everything. And then it's
And
like
then
as soon
nothing.
as he leaves, no one remembers it.
Nope.
Like they're obviously this guy's at a debate and they know he's gonna say crazy stuff. He's 100 years old, but they all act shocked when he says that. But they completely forget that there's a pickle man running around New York. It's yesterday's news. No one cares about it. It's one day and it's gone.
I love the gay couple that come up to his cart, and he's like, "Oh, pickles." He goes, "So no preservatives, nothing." He goes, "No, I just pickle."
In the nastiest pickle jars.
Oh my gosh! And then he's like, "Yeah, I use
Didn't wash them at all.
rainwater."
Didn't wash any of them out.
He's using rainwater. He's taking these vegetables out of the garbage cans.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh!
But
it
it's
was so
right up.
funny.
It's right up fucking Williamsburg hipster avenue because he's recycling everything.
Exactly, and that was the they were poking fun at that, too.
Yeah.
Kind of the whole, like, natural hippie thing.
But
I
in
thought
the
it was
nastiest pickle jars you've ever seen. It was like
And reusable, too.
It was like
Otherwise, Herschel will do violence.
I will do violence.
Will do violence.
Yeah, and he turns out he's quite the fighter. Takes on some New York construction workers.
A few of them.
He's old school too.
Yeah, he is.
He's an old
He's
school
got that
fighting
old
style.
school
Yep.
fighting stance.
That's the way to do it.
It is.
And obsessed. I wish it went on longer. I loved the seltzer bit when right at the start when. And another thing I think this film could have used was like a female character at some part.
Like a love interest.
Yeah, or
After his wife
some
died?
because it's just Seth Rogen.
Mm-hmm. It is.
The entire time. On the Wikipedia page, it says co-stars Sarah Nook. If you go to the very start, that's Sarah Greenbaum, his wife.
Yeah.
What is she in it for 30 seconds?
Maybe.
It says she co-stars. She is barely in it at all. I really thought they were going to at least go back and kind of show
Their relationship a little bit more.
well, and how maybe she
1919.
moved on after he got pickled and kind
Yeah,
of
that would've
started
been a
her own
nice touch
family.
to
Because
it.
remember, he left her with, and she was pregnant or whatever. Yeah, I thought another missed opportunity was it goes straight from him waking up in the pickle brine to him having a press conference. I thought they missed out on some comedy bits of like him waking up and then him figuring out what's going on.
Oh,
They
yeah.
always do
And
that
then
when in
even-
these
of course.
freeze, and that's
Fish
always
out of
like the
water
funniest
stories.
parts. Yeah,
Yep.
I can't. I'm surprised they didn't do that.
Discovering cell phones. I mean, there's so many things you could have done.
But again,
with
it
that.
wasn't really
Cars.
a story about this 100-year-old guy. It was much more a story of like one man dealing with his past.
Yes.
So they really, I mean, it's really just was like the way to get people in is the pickle story. But then you're staying for Ben, who's Seth Rogen, today Seth Rogen,
Right.
dealing with the death of his parents, right?
Yeah.
Because they died.
I mean, they
didn't
died, and then he was a freelance app developer. He
Yes.
made this thing called Boop Bop.
Yes,
It's the
exactly.
stupidest app name I've ever heard.
But you end up
in
finding
my
out at
life.
the end that it's actually named after his parents, which
yeah.
is the whole time you didn't figure out. I love
that app was supposed to be like an ethical search for
I
like,
don't know what that
companies.
was. Yeah.
I don't know.
But he
then
couldn't do
he-
it because he
'cause
ended
he
up
got
getting
arrested
arrested for it.
for
And
that
I love
fight.
that they sell the air rights to a graveyard. Would they have been able to put a billboard up?
I know that's wild. There's just no maintenance. I mean, I think if you would have sold that land, I mean, those tombstones would have been knocked down.
Well, they didn't sell the land. They sold the land above it, so they couldn't do anything for the air. Yes,
Yeah.
so they could put billboards up and stuff. So it's that part I thought was shitty.
It was
Shitty.
definitely
Yeah.
shitty.
And of course, shitty for Ben's character who never went and visited his grandma. And Herschel, he thought that the tombstone would be 13 feet high. Mm-hmm. He
Not
thought
even
because
close.
all he wanted was a grave marker, and seltzer. Remember the seltzer vendor? I didn't think that was ever a thing, but the seltzer water, that was like the mark of a rich man.
Yeah.
I couldn't get over that, but yeah, he loved it, and then he was blown away that he had a seltzer machine.
Just in his kitchen, on hand. Man, must have been nice.
That's the height of luxury.
It is.
We really take for granted all the things we have today.
Oh,
when
for
100
real.
years ago, we didn't even
We
have,
had nothing.
We didn't even have seltzer,
No.
unfortunately.
So this film, I guess, was put together as early as 2007 with Seth Rogen and Simon Rich. They began developing and talking about this idea. Sony Pictures ended up acquiring the rights in May of 2013 for that short story, which is what this American Pickle is based on, called Sellout. But man, that's just crazy to me that 2007 this story was in discussion, and we got this film 13 years later.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't. Again, I didn't mind this film at all. Like, it was. Would I recommend it? Yeah, but also at the same time, like, I'm not overly hyped on it. But man, to really just this story to stick with you for 13 years is a little baffling to me.
I know you think after 13 years this would be like something phenomenal or something like that, but yeah, again, it felt like a long SNL skit to me. Just how like everything was happening and how everything happened so quick too. Like it was really fast. Like how he immediately Herschel got him to send out the app finally after years. And then, like, 20 seconds later, he gets a response back. Like, they were just waiting there for
this guy to post it.
So, stuff like that where, it had to move really, really quick. It felt, I don't know, really fast. Almost like it was like a two-man play or a one-man play.
Right.
Because it's just Seth Rogen. So, stuff like that, well, yeah, after 13 years, you think it wouldn't. I think they would have perfected it. Mm-hmm. But again, my biggest complaint is it felt like a short story being stretched out too. Yeah. I think this probably could have been an hour long.
Yeah, it could have been. It could have been like a, I guess.
Yeah,
not even a mini series.
There was stuff you could have cut out for sure, but it would have been. It's only an hour and a half at this point. But
yeah, I almost think this would have been better, right? For more time to develop and like not rush it as much. It would have been good as like a 8 or 10 episode, half an hour series.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like a season or 2 of this, like I think would have been okay, but.
Then you could have really explored all the characters and all the relationships, and you could have gone back and like spent more time with Sarah
with the
and
wife.
All that. Yeah, exactly like that. Well, and just showing like how his family spent those 100 years, because they end up she ended up marrying, and
Ben
then
was great grandpa.
Yeah,
Herschel was Ben's great grandpa.
Yeah, but then she ended up marrying like his step great grandpa, and he was like owned like a brick factory or something like that. You could have shown the exciting life of a brick factory owner. That would have been great. But and it would have, and you could have taken more time with the whole business thing too, where that seems very fast too, where it's like he immediately gets a bunch of interns, and then immediately the entire town turns on him. Yeah, it all happens very, very quick. But
another thing that shocked me about this film, obviously only 89 minutes, but the budget for this was $20 million at least. It's got a 20 million plus sign by it, so it could have even been more than 20.
Yeah, but that's
What do you think? Where do you think that went?
The green screen and the CGI for having a double on screen.
Yeah,
a lot of the time you have to superimpose his face a lot.
But I got to say, a lot of those shots were just a double.
Oh yeah,
over the shoulder. There was a lot of over the shoulder shots in this.
Yeah, and fucking if you had like a twin actor or something, you could have. I feel like you could have made this movie for $1 million.
Yeah, yeah, like Parent Trap, Lindsay Lohan.
Well, I mean, there's nothing to hear that make you think it's $20 million worth. Yeah. Besides the fact that they shot it in New York. And probably had to pay Seth Rogen a lot.
But they didn't even shoot it in New York. They shot it in Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, again, that's where I don't understand where all the money went.
Yeah, I know. And Seth Rogen is good in this, but I don't think you had to have Seth Rogen in this. I mean, he produced it and everything. He was great in it. But, I mean, I don't think you had to. I feel like you could have had an actor do the same thing, but then it obviously wouldn't have been as comedic. Mm-hmm. But I felt like it wanted to be dramatic.
I thought at times it did.
I feel like it was trying to. I mean, it was funny at times, but I feel like it wanted to be more dramatic than funny. I did like the courtroom scene though. That was just ridiculous enough to make me laugh. I thought it was
that was one of my favorite scenes. Yeah, it was just. You're right. It was just over the top because they have a big billboard with Herschel and Ben, and they go, obviously this is Herschel because of the beard, and then the prosecutor.
It's so.
He goes over. He goes, "Is it Charles Manson? Is this also Charles Manson with a beard, or is this a completely different person?"
I move, we throw out the entire... and the judge goes, agreed immediately.
Well, then he goes, am I a different person? And he picks up the fake beard and puts it on him. And he was like, am I a completely different person?
Yeah, that's Tim Robinson. He was an SNL alum too, but he's hilarious. But that really part is so... Were you supposed to just believe because he shaved his beard, he's a different person? And then immediately has the poster of Manson.
I know, it is just
Are we supposed to believe that Manson isn't really Manson? And then everyone in the audience was like, yeah. And they're all like,
yeah, this guy's an idiot.
They cheer. It's so funny. And they immediately ship him off. I don't even know how it works to like Eastern Europe, and they just throw him out. And it's so funny when like he gets off the cab and like the police are just like, go.
Yeah, like a stray dog. And he's like, okay, I'm leaving.
I did like that part. Yeah. I wish it would have been just that kind of comedy. Mm-hmm. Like that. Yes. That would have been much more Seth Rogen-esque.
Right. And that's something like I can appreciate too. And then, it throws the realm of reality out where I go, okay, this is just a pure comedy. I'm good with this. You know, there's some movies that you can get away with that on, like Anchorman. You know, like
well, it's a very
comedy.
funny,
it's over the top.
yeah, but it's a very funny premise. You know, a guy gets pickled, and 100 years later eats, and then
and now he's in modern day 2020.
Yeah, and he runs into his great grandson or whatever. It's a funny premise, but that's what I thought going in. It was just going to be just a kind of a slapstick comedy. But again, they ended up trying to combine it and trying to make it kind of like a Funny People, where it's comedy, but then it has like a very dramatic undertone, like both his parents dying. It's very dramatic.
Yeah, it is.
But
it's very dark. If I'm being honest, like I didn't need to see that. I would have just preferred if this was just a straight up over the top comedy. Because the jokes that they did have landed pretty well, in my opinion. I just didn't think there were enough jokes to make me laugh enough. Because you are right. Like any times the jokes came up, they landed. You know, the courtroom scene is one of them where I like laughed out loud.
But literally the scenes we brought up are probably the
only ones.
Yeah, these scenes. You're right. The jokes were too far spread out.
Yeah.
For it to be, because it went once something really funny, then a long time of very, very dramatic and kind of dark stuff. Yeah. Especially with Ben like really hating Herschel and almost immediately, and I mean not for much.
Very jealous too. Very jealous man.
Well, calling. I mean, he was in the audience. He was out for him. I mean, calling the health inspector, but I guess Herschel did ruin his
app and his life in a lot of ways.
Yeah. By making him fight the construction workers.
Right.
But is there anything else you have on it? American Pickle. I didn't hate it. I think it's worth watching if you have HBO Max already. It's not worth buying HBO Max just for American Pickle.
No.
But if you have HBO Max, it's definitely worth a watch. Seth Rogen's good enough to where I'll at least watch anything he's in at least once.
Well, something interesting, too, you know that poster right there was actually taken from a preserved 19th century camera.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because it looks authentic, too, and I found that out.
Maybe that's where the budget went.
Yeah, is to preserve a 19th century camera.
$1 million to that camera.
Yeah. But, I kind of have the same thoughts, too, Cash. Like, this isn't a film that I loved over the top, but this is definitely not a film that I hated either. It was kind of a run-of-the-mill for the comedic moments, they all landed for me. I thought, when they did have funny moments, I laughed, but there weren't enough of them. I thought at times they tried to get too deep with this when it could have just been a straight up comedy because the premise is just so utterly absurd to begin with. So for me, it's run of the mill.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, that is our review for An American Pickle. If you guys like what you're seeing here and you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like this video, comment below, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification as we drop videos here every single day. If you're listening in audio format, Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, and Stitcher, social medias, Twitter, Seen It Podcast, Cash is on Twitter, that's just Cash, Instagram, Have You Seen It, Facebook, Have You Seen It Podcast. Thank you so much for watching and listening. My name is Mason Knight. That is Cash Krause, and until next time.
Bye.